I have Aiwin. She's a co-founder of a New York-based fashion brand, and she established the brand in 2012, and the brand specializes in winter wear and sustainable manufacturing. Hi, Aiwin. Welcome.
Hi, Lavanya. Thank you for inviting me.
It's my pleasure. I'm so excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here too.
So the first thing I have to ask you is, um, tell me about your love for fashion. Did you always love fashion, or you happen to stumble upon this industry?
Yeah, I think it's also an interesting question to me that why I stepped into the fashion industry. Because like before I started to do it, I used to think I'm just like a regular fashion shopper. Like I do like
Mm-hmm.
fashion, but I never have like too much industry insight about fashion.
Mm-hmm.
Until the point that the designer of my fashion company right now, she has always been my really good friend growing up, and I knew she went to Milan to start design, and then growing up, we always like loved to do some kind of like artwork together. We used to
Mm-hmm.
like do poster together for school, and then sometime we do like some little fun visual thing, just like taking picture for each
Mm-hmm.
other, like doing makeup, doing some you, I call it like a little bit like very teenager kind of like
Mm-hmm.
passion, like for fashion, for
Yeah.
art. So we used to do that together. And then, so I kind of like know that like she will be a designer. And then when she graduated, she kind of like reached out
Mm-hmm.
to me for this idea for creating this brand. So that was like their starting point for me to really think about fashion could be part of my
Mm-hmm.
career. And I started to learn that more systematically and more professionally.
Mm-hmm.
And I think now I'm more confident that to say that, oh, I have more insight about fashion and stuff like
Mm-hmm.
that. But that was kind of like the starting point that how I view fashion differently than just a consumer.
Yeah, no, that's really cool. I didn't know that you had a long-term relationship with your co-founder. Tell me, it sounds like, the brand fell out of something that you guys loved together, and your relationship was part of what essentially birthed the brand and kind of inspired the partnership that you had. Tell me more about your relationship with your co-founder. It sounds like, you were someone that she trusted to become her partner. So I would love to know more about that.
Yeah, definitely. I think it might also ring about for a lot of like different like partnership form that some are purely based on our like business strategies, some are based on our different function, and then my partnership with my designer, yes, like the starting point was from the trust that we have along this whole year, and then also functionally aligns because I'm professional in business. I
Hmm.
my current job outside of my fashion brand, it's like doing consulting related work. So I'm good at public relation. I'm good at
Hmm.
making connection, and then I'm also like good at making business plan and strategy, and then I know finance too. And then for my
Hmm.
partner, which is the designer, she's only been starting design for her whole life and working in that design industry. So she's like
Hmm.
are relatively lack of confidence in the business side, which I'm
Sure.
very strong in. So that's kind of like
Hmm.
not only we have the trust in the foundation, but also functionally it
Hmm.
aligns together. Also, our brand's office or headquarter in China
Hmm.
because it's just like more close to the manufacturing sites, and
Hmm.
then for a lot of reason, it economically make more sense to start a brand in China, and then our
Hmm.
designer and also a couple the main team is it's located in China. So also because I'm in United States right now, it
Right.
make it easier for me to outreach to our the New York Fashion Week, Paris Fashion Week,
Hmm.
and I'm kind of like more flexible and more comfortable in terms of like handling those things with language
Yeah.
wise, culture wise. So yeah, that's how their partnership works.
It sounds like you guys have this blend of balance between the different aspects of establishing a business, especially when it comes to a creative industry like having a fashion brand. It sounds like, something that your co-founder is great at. You might be great at something else, and you kind of have this like very balanced partnership. Tell me more about in the situation of when things are less balanced. How do you guys resolve conflict? Maybe sometimes it's hard to lean businesses towards. Do you go with the creative instinct or do you go with the business decision? Like, tell me more about how you guys address that.
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like we're still are having that struggle every single day. Because I think it might be the challenge for all the fashion brands or like business that you have to balance your innovation or your creative side, but
Mm-hmm.
meanwhile you have to make decision strategically and financially make sense. So
Mm-hmm.
we do have like the biggest struggle we have is like so Frigid.org has like two lines right now. One is our main
Mm-hmm.
line that is like high-end line that we
Yeah.
do our high-end buyer shops. We push out this channel just like any of like the big brands that you know. We do official
Mm-hmm.
marketing, we do showrooms, we do fashion week. And then also we have like a lower line that's like e-commerce centric. So it's
Mm-hmm.
called tap by Frigid.org. It's like
Mm-hmm.
relatively like their target customer for their subline. It's more like people who are younger and are, and then the
Right.
price range wise, it's just easier for people uh who might be
More
younger
people
to
can afford it.
yeah, right. And then because of that, we only limited that channel in the e-commerce channel.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think business sense wise, the sublines make more mm, financially it make more sense for the subline because
Mm-hmm.
of our we are having more revenue generated by the subline based on the nature
Mm-hmm.
of the price and everything. And then the main line, not only it's more expensive and
Mm-hmm.
it's harder to sell and it requires a lot of investment, not only in marketing but also just in manufacturing itself. So
Mm-hmm.
our just like naturally it's like a less profitable lines compared to the subline. So we're constantly
Mm-hmm.
having this like argumentation that, well, how can we maintain and allocate different resource between these two lines? Because apparently the subline
Right.
generate more money, but the main line, it's what our designer really want to realize a lot of her concept,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of her creation, a lot of her innovative idea.
Right.
So it's like a constant battle. And I think the good way to balance it, at least what makes sense for us now as a startup, is like we wanted to at least make through like every season.
Mm-hmm.
So even though we do want to put more resource in the main line, because this is like why we want to create this brand in the first place, but we always
Mm-hmm.
like budget in a way that okay, do we have enough uh funding to make us through the next season? And then that kind of
Right.
decide that okay, if we don't have that much funding at this point, maybe we should put more focus on the subline, which generate more revenue, and then in the good season we can allocate more resources to the main line. So that's kind of the balance that
Mm-hmm.
we have to evaluate like every single
Yeah.
season. And to be honest, it's not easy. Sometimes we even have to think about giving up the main line for a little bit. For example, during COVID,
Mm-hmm.
it was a really
Right.
hard time for the main line to survive, and we had to make a decision to suspend their main line for one season because all the
Right.
showrooms were just not active at that moment.
Yeah.
And yeah, so I think at this moment we're trying to keep it dynamic to
Mm-hmm.
juggle between these two aspects.
Yeah. And sometimes like you do have to react to the facts that's in front of you. In the case of a pandemic, that maybe that's not the optimal year to focus on the fashion mainline that you mentioned, and maybe focus more on the e-commerce. And that's kind of those years of the pandemic, people were shopping online a lot more. So it totally makes sense to shift your focus, but you still want to stay true to the origin of where that like creative energy and the branding of what you want Frigid to be kind of lies within the main line. And I think that's where you're kind of tapping into like that inspiration and being part of New York Fashion Week or Paris Fashion Week and getting feedback from your peers is really going to influence what you want to tap into and bring that into a more affordable line and potentially reach out to more customers who could purchase that and like kind of bring it to like the day to day of the brand, which is really cool. And it's great that you kind of have uh, two sides of the brand, and it kind of reflects like your balanced relationship with your co-founder. That your line is kind of also balanced in different ways. So that is actually super insightful. I think a lot of brands probably have a hard time. Kind of sustaining and keeping the business going when they're focused on just one aspect. So I think it's great that you guys kind of had the forethought to have two separate lines and kind of segment the business a little bit. I think that really would help the brand on the long run for sure. Um,
Yep.
so I do want to kind of get into a little bit more about the take me back to maybe the years before COVID, back to 2012 in the early years of when you were establishing the brand. Tell me about the process of how that came about from the moment that your a designer when she was like calling you up and saying, "Hey, like I have this idea. I'm inspired. I have an idea for this brand." From that like creative ideation to actually launching. Tell me about the process that you went through.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. I think that's definitely like the most important, or I would call it like the hardest step to make. It's like how to create something from
Hmm.
0 to 0.5. Like
Yeah.
that's usually
Right.
the hardest step. Like you don't like to be honest, back then, like it's like we don't even know where to start. We know we need to create like a company, like we know the
Yeah.
concept of doing a startup, but like how are we actually
Hmm.
gonna organize like this like new business and how are we gonna like make our first income, right? And then
Yeah.
I think the process for us, yeah, it's kind of like taking me remember like rethinking about what was like the timeline. I think
Hmm.
like back then when I first get this idea from my partner, which is the designer, we've been talking
Hmm.
about it very actively. It was like, okay, this is what I want to do. I mean, this is what we
Hmm.
could do. And then at that stage, we're already talking about, okay, so potentially there's like a couple
Hmm.
things that we can do to establish this brand. For example, it's like pretty common sense
Hmm.
based. So like nowadays, because like social media and then our like publicity will usually be the first
Yeah.
step for you to like make any brands, right? So we
Hmm.
made it like a couple plans to create this like first publicity for creating um like a social media accounts that start to
Yeah.
post some artwork or some design
Hmm.
concept to like to attract some attention. And then
Yeah.
second, because we're pretty much like Chinese based brand, and because like most of our
Hmm.
sales are still in China right now in our team,
Yeah.
most of our team are in China. So I don't know if you know that like Chinese people
Hmm.
use our apps called WeChat a lot. It's basically like their
Hmm.
day-to-day
Yeah. It's
communication
kind of like
apps.
WhatsApp. Yeah, I'm familiar.
Yeah, it's kind of like WhatsApp, but it's cover a lot more compared to WhatsApp. For example,
Gotcha.
it has like digital wallet function. They have
Hmm.
like a social media function, and it basically cover every single part of your life. And then part of the
Gotcha.
very important things of that apps is like they do something called the public accounts, which depends
Hmm.
on like for example, if I'm a gamer, I can follow their
Yeah.
public accounts for gamer, and then you will get a
Hmm.
lot of information for that. So we started to create the Frigid.org public accounts, which we post a lot of like fashion idea, fashion tips. So and also some you know, I kind of forget what we post, but I we try to post like
Yeah,
a lot
but
of like
you're kind
very
of like
practical
setting
thing.
up the groundwork, doing guerrilla marketing, and kind of getting out to the audience and putting the brand out there, and just thinking of ways that you can reach out to people. And doing it on WeChat was kind of this like maybe up and coming way of approaching marketing. Because I would
Yeah,
probably I can guess back in like 2012, 2013, like social media was still kind of a newer thing. And I'm sure that was
yep,
kind of helpful for your brand.
yeah, correct. And also, because based on the nature for that channel, like if you use Instagram, like I think the conversion rate for your
Hmm.
follower to be your buyer, uh,
Yeah.
it is good, but relatively because it's like
Mhm.
average to like too many follower at once. But the way that the WeChat official channel is set up, it's kind of like more targeted. Only people who are
Mhm.
interested in certain topic they will
Mhm.
follow you, and then it's not like as like outreach as like Instagram and
Mhm.
other social media, so which narrow down to our first group of
Yeah.
consumer, and then the conversion rate is like pretty good from there, and then followed by
Mhm.
that we then invest in their first season for from design to
Mhm.
manufacture. We hire photographer, and then
Right.
we have our first like season of product, and then we push our product through that um social media channel that we
Mhm.
have been probably established for more than a year. So then that's kind of
Gotcha.
like, yeah, that's kind of like build up our first like target customer. I think it's always
Mhm.
good to think ahead that even though you have this like excellent idea, but how can I make my first sale? I think
Right.
because I'm more in business school, that was like something I was always think about. I wasn't
Yeah.
putting as much as effort compared to designer about what
Mhm.
textile I should use, what should a design look
Right.
like. Yeah,
Yeah.
I will give certain idea about that, but I'm more focused
Mhm.
on like how do I reach out to my first customer? Why would they buy our
Yeah.
product? And then how
Mhm.
could I make them know that we exist? And then that was more of like the question I was thinking about. And then I think because of that idea, we're constantly evolving to make sure
Mhm.
that we have enough money to continuously to
Yeah.
fund this designing, dream or
Mhm.
concept or
Right.
whatever. And then that's kind of
Yeah.
like involved into like the subline. And then I
Mhm.
think that's how we make from 0 to 0.5, and how we
Mhm.
really grow from 0.5 to 1. Um
Mhm.
we did a lot of things. We tried to build up a lot of resource or get a lot of
Mhm.
connection within the fashion industry circle in China first.
Right.
So later on we have our third partner, which is like a pretty good photographer, which is like the only photographer
Mhm.
we have been using in our brand. And then
Yeah.
he did marry our designer later, so it's kind of like
That's so sweet. Yeah.
I know, I know. It's kind of like their love story and business story all
Yeah.
combined together. Yeah, yeah.
No,
So,
that's super cool.
yeah. But at first, while we just like working together, he also helped us a lot for outreaching to other photographer to use our product, to use our or like exchanging model information or exchanging publicity information. So that kind of get our footstep into the fashion circle. And also naturally when you work in this circle you gain a lot of like resource
Mhm.
about I don't know what's the professional terms in English to talk in here, but it's pretty much
Like
like,
networking?
yeah, networking, but like in seating section, we call it seating in China, but pretty much it's just
Mhm.
like at the very first level, when your brand
Mhm.
doesn't have that much publicity, it's just like I'm giving my product for free to you, but in return, what
Right.
do I want? Yeah, you
Mhm.
could be an influencer, send us some picture, or you could just like
Right.
exchange your the next opportunity for some like commercial or some next opportunity that we could potentially utilize. So we do a lot of like
Mhm.
seeding, we do a lot of partnership. There weren't many pay marketing at that moment because we have very
Mhm.
limited funding at that point. And
Right.
then yeah, and then gradually when were establishing the brand, we reach out to showroom, we reach out to agency.
Mm-hmm.
We have a full marketing team that do all sort of marketing, like um,
Yeah.
pay, inviting influencer, hosting
Mm-hmm.
events.
Yeah.
Eh, yeah, so it's more. I would have
Like
to say
over
that,
time, it evolved and
yeah,
the team grew, and you're managing more people, you're bringing in more experts. And I think earlier on, you were probably filling so many of those roles, and now you're delegating to other people who can help you kind of like you're delegating the task, but then they're also bringing in expertise for you to take the brand to the next level. So it definitely makes sense.
yeah. So right now, just to follow on that, right now,
Mm-hmm.
I only responsible for the North America or like the
Mm-hmm.
non-Chinese portions of like public relationship and showrooms and
Mm-hmm.
outreaching. Um, we are very are because our first stop was in China, so we constantly try
Yeah.
to like make it out of China. So we try a lot of like different
Mm-hmm.
collaboration, showroom, pop-up store in North America,
Mm-hmm.
in Europe, and in a lot of places. But
Yeah.
yeah, so that's kind of like correspond to like the part that I
Mm-hmm.
gradually like delegate the responsibility that more
Yeah.
fit to my Chinese team, and then I could do something
Mm-hmm.
more fit to like my flexibility in language and
Mm-hmm.
culture and like everything else. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I know that certainly makes sense. Do you feel like your role as uh, the founder from where you started off with right now with when you have so many of those tasks delegated, do you feel like accomplished or like relief, or do you feel like you want to have more control of the brand? Like, how do you feel right now with your role?
That's actually a good question too, because I love you know that I'm
Hmm.
also in business school right now. I
Yeah.
also have a consulting job, so it's definitely very hard to delegate all those things together at once. A
Hmm.
Frigid.org, it's always in my heart. I wanted to
Yeah.
grow better than anything else, but meanwhile, I also try to grow as a person too. So,
Yeah.
um, I think a big part of me actually feel very accomplished because like
Hmm.
we're at least that means we're organized and mature enough to have a professional team that take over that
Hmm.
marketing responsibility from me. Because
Yeah.
to be honest, I'm not like a professional in marketing industry either.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think doing that role day to day, I'm not maximizing my value in there either. So
Hmm.
having a team in China which are more familiar with like Chinese social media environment and
Yeah.
influencer dynamic would make more
Hmm.
sense for me to fill in that role. So I actually feel very accomplished and relieved that someone who could do this job, do this like part of work more efficiently can take that over for me. And
Hmm.
then I do sometimes think about like because I'm involving in the less important part of the business right now, because like even though we're trying to expand beyond China, but if you look at
Hmm.
our financial statement, like 99% of our revenue are
Hmm.
generated from China, and that's our main market. And do
Hmm.
I want to like, am I worried about I'm losing control for that part? I don't I don't think that's ever my main concern because
Hmm.
I think the my first motivation for me to create this brand with my friend, it's not because I want it to be my big asset like financially.
Hmm.
Like it's more because like I know my best friends in my life have this dream and she needs help
Yeah.
and I can offer that. And then the more I
Hmm.
involve in it, the more I think it's more like my kids. Like I mean, I'm not
Hmm.
expecting my kids to give me like a lot of money. I mean, hopefully it
Yeah.
will, but it's not my first priority. I
Yeah.
just want it to grow.
Yeah.
I want it to grow as
No,
much as
I love the
possible.
analogy.
Yeah, it sounds a little clingy, but I do think like
Yeah.
it's my kids. Yeah, like
Yeah.
if it works better for my kids to grow in that way, if I'm like releasing some of their, control over it, I'm happy to
Hmm.
do that. And
Yeah,
then
you want your kids to
also,
be independent and like flourish on their own, and it's kind of the same with the brand. Like you want it to stand on its own.
mhm. Yeah, I want the structure or like because I see it as like a business. It's like
Mm-hmm.
now we have a team for over like 30 people, including part-time and full-time. Like I want a
Mm-hmm.
business structure, especially after I've been in this like I have all this business knowledge. I want it to function itself. That doesn't mean
Mm-hmm.
that I need to, even though it's a startup, it's very important for like founder to know every single
Yeah.
step. But I want the structure to function itself, and that's ultimately for every startup that needs to be doing. And
Mm-hmm.
you're the key person, but it shouldn't be the way that if the company leave you for a few days, a few weeks, it can't function anymore. It needs to
Right.
function itself. And then also I kind of do know that I'm the big initiative in any outreach
Mm-hmm.
beyond their Chinese market. So I'm more taking that part under my umbrella that I know
Mm-hmm.
if I wanted to contribute, that will be the area that could maximize my value because nobody in my
Right.
team right now can take over that role. And any effort I'm making, I'm more focusing on this area rather than, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
like marketing in China. I actually don't know much, but I want to
Yeah.
do micromanaging. That's not something I think
Mm-hmm.
will be
It's not your
really
style.
efficient. Yeah,
I
exactly.
know over the years of building Frigid and getting it to the point that um, it is now, it's an independent brand, and your roles have changed over the years. Tell me about what's something that you've learned through this process that you'll maybe always remember in your future endeavors.
Yeah, I'm very happy to share that. I think I definitely
Mm-hmm.
learned a lot of things throughout this journey that
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't learn in anything else. Like um just like doing my day-to-day like our consulting
Mm-hmm.
job and being a student, I think I probably would never learn how much ownership
Mm-hmm.
and the initiative that I have to own in order to make something grow. So it's like pretty in a I think in a plain language it just like I know this is something that the more I work on it
Yeah.
it doesn't guarantee a return, but if you don't put in any
Mm-hmm.
efforts, for sure you're not going to get anything back. I think I'm more
Mm-hmm.
like realizing that like 100% by working in Frigid.org. Like
Yeah.
sometime we would work really hard to try to like go into one showroom, but even though I have put so much like funding and money and effort, it could turn out that the
Mm-hmm.
order for that year could just be very crappy, which really happened during COVID.
Yeah.
That we spent a lot of money and investment and personal
Mm-hmm.
efforts on Fashion Week in Shanghai, but it
Mm-hmm.
just very bad because of the market itself. So, so other than the ownership, I kind of like second
Mm-hmm.
feel that sometimes it's not because of you do things in the wrong way or right way. Sometimes it's
Right.
really about the big business environment. So that kind of like
Mm-hmm.
click back to like everything I'm learning in business school right now. That
Mm-hmm.
why understanding the market trend is so important and why strategic
Right.
position is so important to correspond to that market trends. Because like
Mm-hmm.
fashion wise, your idea could be excellent, your design could be wonderful,
Right.
fabulous, but if you're not coming in the right moment and
Mm-hmm.
doing the right thing in the right time, which is sometimes really out of luck, that
Mm-hmm.
it's still not gonna be it's still not gonna get you anything. So I kind of like know that even though I do everything, but if I'm missing that luck, which sometimes just like the market environment,
Mm-hmm.
that I don't need to take that too
It's
personal.
external, like you can't always
Yeah.
control it. Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like telling me that like, hey, it's not everything it's about me or anyone in my company
Mm-hmm.
or doing the right thing or not the right thing. We probably did everything we can, but we're still
Mm-hmm.
not achieving the things that we want. And it's okay. And just try another year. I
Mm-hmm.
think I've been telling myself that a lot, that just hey, keep
Yeah.
trying. Eventually, I
Mm-hmm.
mean, we also did something right probably at that certain moment that bring us to another
Mm-hmm.
level. And sometimes if you look
Sure.
back, you didn't even know what did I do? Why did it become like some of
Yeah.
our yeah, some of our design just like
Mm-hmm.
blowing up in China that we have like thousands and thousands of orders for just like
Right.
one yeah, just for one SKU. So
Yeah.
sometimes when we look back, we're just like, yeah, nobody know what's going on or what happened or
Yeah.
what we did right, but it just
Mm-hmm.
happened. So
Yeah, and that's part of the experimentation. And once you know that, maybe a certain product is doing really well, I'm sure you reacted appropriately and did more marketing or pushed that product more out to the buyers. So it's more about like your reaction to what you're observing
yeah,
in the trends or the market or what the consumers are, enjoying and stuff like that. And maybe you don't even know where like originally if that like the inspiration behind that product is
yeah.
what you know like you can't predict that, but reacting is part of why you make a business successful is knowing when to react and how to react.
Yeah, that's a good point too. We try to like be more analytic about it, that why it
Mm-hmm.
happened or how could we do better based on like the historical performance, like
Yeah.
in your way, just like how to react better. But I think that's
Mm-hmm.
always like the myth of marketing too. It's like really hard to quantify all the
Mm-hmm.
factor because there're just like way
Yeah.
too many factor. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
also a learning process. We try to I took a class in USC about marketing, it's fashion
Mm-hmm.
branding. So
Yeah.
it does gave me a lot of concepts that are very useful to how to make branding and brand marketing more
Mm-hmm.
quantifiable and more efficient. I think I am trying to apply those knowledge in. But
Mm-hmm.
as you know, I'm sure
Yeah.
you experience that, like transferring a concept into a practice, it
Mm-hmm.
takes a really hard process to make it happen.
Yeah.
So I think we're even though we're
Mm-hmm.
having all this like knowledge on the book, we are still trying to like
Mm-hmm.
how do I find the right data? How do I use it efficiently?
Yeah.
And then yeah, we're still on the process for that.
Yeah, no, I think that's definitely a fair observation because being a creative brand, you want to be able to balance, the creative instincts, but then you also have the data that you're looking at and being analytical about it and finding that balance between staying true to the brand identity, but at the same time, you want to react to what is competitive in the market. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Definitely, I do want to know more about how over the years, Frigid has been able to um, create and sustain a brand identity while trends can, evolve and change over the years.
Yeah, this is like a crucial question for all the brands that we all thinking
Mm-hmm.
about like how can we survive or how can we brand outside of like all this other competitor, and on top of that there are like difference in
Mm-hmm.
fashion trends, it's constantly evolving. But if you look at all the
Yeah.
successful brands that we're seeing nowadays, they all
Mm-hmm.
have some key concept that left the strongest impression to the consumer, and that's
Yeah.
probably the only or the main reason that why they can just like still
Mm-hmm.
be in the market today. So we think about that a lot. I constantly talk to my designer that I know
Mm-hmm.
you have probably have a millions of idea going in your mind every single day that you want to do this and this
Mm-hmm.
and this and that. But
Yeah.
it's kind of my principle to give her that doesn't matter what you want to try, because
Mm-hmm.
fashion and design is a very creative thing. You can't put a boundary on it,
Exactly.
even though yeah, even though we do have a financial constraint about it. But I my trying is just not to put a boundary um
Mm-hmm.
outside that like sorry, I'm thinking about the term in Chinese. I'm trying to translate it to English right now because I use Chinese term when I talk to my
Uh-huh.
team. Yeah, we do have like a certain budget for each season, and that's
Mm-hmm.
something for sure needs to constrain her a little bit. And then the
Yeah.
second thing that I'm only demanding is like I want a couple concept, or when I say a couple, maybe no, it's like no more than three that you need
Mm-hmm.
to consistently using,
Yeah.
growing, and evolving. So if you look at our design right now, there's like
Mm-hmm.
certain texture, like textile that we've been using throughout every season. And
Mm-hmm.
then, so it might be a bad thing to say it, but
No.
they're counterfeit and they're copying,
Uh-huh.
violation. It's a big thing in China. So
I
if
see.
you have if you have a very if you have successful product this today, The next day you look
Mhm.
in the internet, you will see like a thousand
Mhm.
of the fake products already being
Right.
created.
Yeah.
So right now, even though I'm just like browsing online and whatever, I could easily tell what other brands are copying our stuff because I could see those
Mhm.
key elements being in our design, like the textile, like
Mhm.
their cutting. We
Yeah.
have like a very famous cutting
Mhm.
arm. I don't know how to describe it, but if you're familiar with our brands, you know, like the
Mhm.
A-shaped cutting and then
Yeah.
like their like the cake. Our designer really liked that cutting
Mhm.
for doing like a cake layer. We call it a cake layer in
Yeah.
China, and then make it like an A
Mhm.
shape. And then he used like a lot of like ribbons or elements in her design a lot. So those
Mhm.
like three or four things combined together are
Yeah.
something are I've been constantly saying that it has to like show up in
Mhm.
every
Yeah, you want
season.
that like
We
a
have to
consistent
reinforce it.
thread throughout the years that there is that like identifiable factor that's unique to the brand and kind of bringing those elements in, but in a new, like fresh way, maybe.
Yes,
That
yes,
makes
we can
sense.
change color, we can like change the
Yeah.
place we use it, but yeah, but like now if you see those like ribbons, like it's very easy to tell it's from our brand. So
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
something we will keep doing. And it could involve too, I don't know, like I know
Mhm. Yeah.
Louis Vuitton involved their pattern throughout the year too,
Mhm.
but it's always something that has been consistently like enforcing their reinforcing their impression of that brand.
Right, right. No, that completely makes sense, and it's great that you had that forethought to inform your designer to kind of hold on to the inspiration that might have been something that they were experimenting with, but it kind of made your brand essentially stand out in some ways, and maybe something that the consumers gravitated towards. And I'm sure in some ways, when you see other brands like mimicking your designs, it's both like flattering in a way, but also makes you feel like, oh, is my brand not going to be the one that's like maybe selling that product because now there's like alternatives. Like you're kind of losing like the uniqueness, but at the same time, in some way, it's flattering that you created that inspiration. And there's that um, feeling of like art is all about like imitating other art in some ways. So it's kind of hard to know and hard to be like the first comer, like the point of inspiration, in some ways. So I'm sure it's like a double-edged sword for you.
Yeah, I don't know. We were ever flattered by that because I always see it just like order that we could make, but now it's going into someone else's pocket.
Yeah, I'm sure that's like frustrating in many ways. But I think you should definitely take it as like, um, you're inspiring maybe some other companies and other brands and you're that like point of inspiration in some ways, but I'm sure it's like frustrating to not be
Yep,
able to kind of like reap the benefits of your creation.
yep, that's a good way of saying it.
um, but tell me more about like what would you say to aspiring entrepreneurs that now that you've kind of experienced different facets of building a brand and sustaining the brand, for any newcomers who are thinking of starting a brand in the fashion industry, what advice would you have for them?
Yeah, I would definitely take this question from a very personal angle because I'm sure a
Yeah.
lot of people will have different opinions about this one. But as a business student, even though I'm in a fashion
Mm-hmm.
industry, I will tell you this is a very it's a very money burning industry. Like
Mm-hmm.
doesn't matter doesn't matter how much funding you could get if you're not making sales for say like the second year or the third year, it's like all the side marketing
Mm-hmm.
demands or stuff like that, it's gonna burn out your pocket really quick because
Yeah.
you require a lot of pre-investment in order to create your product, the season, and this is the industry that no marketing, no sales, and then
Mm-hmm.
they all come together that gonna drain you really quick. So, uh, I'm always telling myself that at the end of the day, I'm still a person. I'm trying to grow myself too. I need to make sure
Yeah.
myself financially secure too. That's why, until nowadays, I'm still trying to go to business school and try to like grow
Mm-hmm.
my my other career as well because I don't
Yeah.
want all the egg in one basket. And but it doesn't mean that I don't care. Like I'm not like putting effort in Frigid.org.
Right.
That's not the same thing. You just have to do a much better time management job in order to like
Mm-hmm.
like put like wear so many hats at different times.
Yeah.
Um, and I think second are in if you can make sure that you will be financially secure. And I think the
Mm-hmm.
second thing to do it's like have like a more like thrill plans about when I will be making profit in this brand and then when will be the good time for me to more develop into this like business and then even
Mm-hmm.
think about the exit strategy ahead of time. I think it's a good way to do because like I kind of pre-plan that not into Frigid.org could
Mm-hmm.
do like a mature like a showroom cycle in all of the three main market, which is like China, like Paris, and it's all
Mm-hmm.
based on Fashion Week in New York. That I wouldn't
Yeah.
like be full time. I might need to revise it later because like
Yeah.
I think being a full time working on full time in Fisher.org will definitely help a lot, but I don't know if that will
Mm-hmm.
maximize the value either. Because like, or if I'm not keep building networking and connection throughout my other part of my life, I don't know. I don't even
Mm-hmm.
know if Fisher.org will grow so fast either. Because like, if I'm working in China full time, I will lose a lot
Mm-hmm.
of connection that I'm making in the United States nowadays too. So yeah,
Right.
so I think our like making plan as early as possible and as like
Mm-hmm.
specific as possible, that will be really helpful thing to guide you through this like startup journey because you will get very lost at startup
Mm-hmm.
point. But when you
Yeah.
have that last moment, try to like check back on your plan and then you know that okay, maybe that's what I was talking about. It was the exit time, or okay, that was just like the
Right.
process that I planned for, like doing that phrase. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that I think that's very useful. And then the very last thing that I might want to like give advice is just like maybe be more patient.
Mm-hmm.
Um, like it's definitely gonna be a lot of up and down. Sometimes you do think your business can collapse tomorrow because it's out of
Mm-hmm.
funding, out of a lot of reason. For me, it didn't
Mm-hmm.
happen. I think we never. I think for me, the good moment didn't come until the third year. When I say the good moment, it's like
Mm-hmm.
when I can see like our like a good amount of order and stuff. It took a
Right.
long time. So which
Yeah.
and why it makes like the first and the second step important because like you need to have enough planning and you need to be
Mm-hmm.
financially sustainable for you to wait for those moments to happen. And
Yeah.
then because the plan I personally make to have another full-time job and keep like
Mm-hmm.
investing in it, I could have the leverage to wait until the third year for me to actually see the first good amount of sales order come in. So
Yeah.
yeah, so be patient while making sure that you're financially secure, mentally secure, like, and then
Mm-hmm.
in your life is secure before this moment happened. And then even that
Yeah.
moment happened, it still go up and down. You just have to be
Yeah.
patient and keep trying until that. You, I don't know. I feel like
Yeah. No,
fashion
your
sometimes is a
list is
lottery
great.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, no, this is a great list, and I think that a lot of people can resonate to the way that you articulated thinking about your plans and being secure in other ways and not putting all your eggs in the same basket, but also being patient to work towards those moments where you can feel really proud of something that you've accomplished. And as you said, I'm sure in any startup in any industry, you're going to see the ups and downs, and sometimes you just have to hold on to the ups while you're going through the downs to get to the next stage and to keep progressing. I think what you said is actually amazing and it's a great answer. So thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, yeah, thank you. I know there's like millions of different like startup style because you've talked to some of
Mm-hmm.
the startup co-founder, like they might have like a
Mm-hmm.
completely different like trial for like
Yeah.
making a company happen. Some could be 1,000% devoted. And I would say
Mm-hmm.
my path, it's probably like the more secure path that based on my personal risk appetite that I would
Mm-hmm.
choose. But yeah,
Yeah.
also it depends on their our startup business business itself too. Fashion
Right.
business, it's a marathon, so you need to make
Yeah.
sure that you can run through that marathon.
No, that certainly makes sense. I think that like you probably have a little bit more of a balanced perspective as someone who's running this business, and maybe that's even part of why you were able to kind of find your place for the company over the long run and kind of go through the different ups and downs of the business and with the fashion industry kind of changing and evolving over the years. It takes a lot of um, different kind of like skills and balancing a lot of different things and knowing when to make certain decisions and learning from your mistakes. Tell me a little bit about what's next for Frigid, what's next for you.
Yeah, so I think the next step for Frigid.org we we got hit by COVID really hard. So right now
Yeah.
it's like the recovery's like phrase for us. We
Mhm.
just resume our main lines, and then we just resume into going into showroom for the fashion week and stuff. And then I think next
Mhm.
step are because of COVID, our North American expansion kind of stopped a little bit as well. So I think next
Mhm.
step we will resume that phrase, and then we're also actively talking to different showroom agency in Paris and try to see
Mhm.
if we can push out our this like new like our main line back into the Europe market as well. So that will
Mhm.
be our next step, and then of course,
Yeah.
meanwhile, in China, we're still like doing our marketing and doing our
Mhm.
mainline and subline. And then I think subline is very flourishing right now, because
Mhm.
price level and e-commerce itself in China,
Yeah.
it's a flourishing market. So we're trying to grab that trend
Mhm.
as well. And
Mhm.
the next step for me personally, I don't know if my personal plan involved in Frigid.org like that much. I think
Mhm.
in a I should put it in this way. So Frigid.org has always been like one of the very important elements that I will plan for in my personal plan, but I also have
Mhm.
other career element that I'm planning for myself. So for
Yeah.
example, next year I'll be graduating from the MBA school,
Mhm.
and then I'm thinking about instead of like continuing staying in consulting, I do want to reach to like explore like the tech
Mhm.
industry. Then I would think about should I keep staying in consulting and keep staying in
Yeah.
tech. Yeah, so that's something I plan personally. But
Mhm.
Frigid.org wise, I think uh, I've been doing this for many years, so I think
Yeah.
it's like a very smooth thing for me to like delegate my time based on
Yeah, it's a
like
little bit on the back
priority
burner
for
for
different
you.
elements. Yeah, I will just keep reaching out for
Mhm.
all the opportunity I just described for Frigid.org. And then
Yeah.
and actually an exciting thing would be
Mhm.
because there's I forgot what it's called, like the COVID policy in China. They call it
Mhm.
zero tolerance policy, whatever,
Right, right.
has been eased. So
Mhm.
this year I could probably travel back and then attend some of the showroom sales and then
Mhm.
finally see my team in 3 years.
Yeah, that's definitely a super exciting moment to be able to be there and see things in real life. And I also love that you're thinking about your next chapter and what you want to do next, which I'm sure is going to be equally challenging and equally exciting. And I'm excited to know more about that whatever you do next, I'm sure, I'll be in the loop and I'll know, and I'm excited to see what you do with that. It's been so cool talking to you about your brand, and this has been so insightful, and I feel like I'm learning a very different side of you. So it's both interesting for me, and I'm sure interesting for people who are listening, who are interested in fashion or just, startups in general. I do have one final question that I am asking all of my guests this season. So tell me what your word is for this year or this chapter of your life.
Just one word
One
or
word. Yeah, it could be like one or two words, a phrase or.
okay. Okay. I think for my current chapter, I think
Mm-hmm.
I will give it two word.
Yeah.
I will give it two word. First one is
Mm-hmm.
change because there are a lot
Yeah.
of changes that happening
Mm-hmm.
personally or professionally. But
Yeah.
I would like to give the second word about it's the hope. I'm
Oh, I love
hoping all these
that.
changes. yeah,
Mm-hmm.
we'll have a positive outturn, and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that will be the two words I'm giving for my current chapter of life.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. And thank you so much for coming on to Through the Looking Glass. It's been a pleasure, and I'm so excited to have you here. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
Well, it's my pleasure being on here too. I don't think I get that many opportunity to like
Hmm.
talk about Frigid.org so much and with someone I
Yeah.
feel are so insightful and so comfortable with. So thank you for giving me this opportunity too.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank